All right, guys, welcome back to the show. With just a few more moments here to go, we want to talk about some entertainment. And with me here on set now, I have Maura Bilal and Becky Mwalimu. Karibuni sana to the show.
Awesome.
Good to have you here. And you guys have something coming up called The Debate. Tell me about what that is.
Gentlemen first.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having us. The Debate is a play about an issue in society that many people do not like to talk about. You know, there are those things that social conditioning and upbringing have made us believe that are to be spoken in hush tones, so we bring it to the fore, we bring it to the stage, we let you know. I don't want to say exactly what it is.
It's important that we don't say exactly what it is, but
Yeah. So now how do people know they want to come?
We come debate about it. Okay, so in it's we'll take the normal relationship, as whether you're dating, whether you're married, whether you're trying to be in one, and then we talk about things that maybe most people decide hizo vitu tu za decide uko chini ya maji. The things we sweep under the carpet, these are the things we want to debate about. And the reason we don't want to say exactly what exactly it is because then people come with a preconditioned mind that so they're going to talk about love. Does it exist or does it not exist? And then you come there with your points to counterattack.
Well, isn't that what makes the debate fiery?
Because because they've been rehearsing on stage, because we've been rehearsing on stage, we want to give you both sides, the fiery both sides of a rehearsed performance, as opposed to tuyachilie tu kwa hewa alafu everybody comes in.
So it's a debate on stage. It's not that the audience member, you guys are going to
No, the debate is on stage. The debate is between the actors,
playing out something.
the actors that Maura stars in, one of the actors being Maura.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So how long have you been preparing for this one?
For about 6 weeks, a month, 2 weeks.
It's one you wrote?
Created. I like the word created. I came up with the story, but we've had Nick Ndeda put pen to paper.
All right.
He does it very brilliantly.
All right. Generally, can we talk about taboos in our society then?
Yes. Actually, Maura, please.
Taboos. Well, oh, sugar. Exactly how? Because I feel like if I start talking about taboos,
I'm going
to give it away. But yes, we have these things. Everyone is brought up in a different setting, and there are those things that we are taught that to fit into society we have to adhere to. There are those things that we cannot talk about openly. Especially when it comes to issues of sexuality. There are things that you cannot even fathom having a conversation like that. You're an adult, you are 35 years old, but you cannot have that conversation with your 55-year-old parent. I think there's a disconnect there because as much as these things, there's something in the play, there's a line, text change because context change. All these things that we have taken as taboos, there is a reason that maybe 100 years ago they were like that, and mostly it was to protect us from things in society or stuff. But then again, with time, these traditions, culture is organic. It changes with time. So when we keep holding on to some traditions and some things that really do not help us move along as a society, as humanity, then art comes in and tells us,
I guess my challenge to that is, isn't it difficult to sort of pose that almost as a blanket statement? Because part of why culture is what it is because it's held on to tradition, right? And so that conversation, it's one thing to talk about, say, FGM, something that you know is destructive, right? People die, you know, because of FGM, or the repercussions of FGM afterwards are not that great. What you think it's achieving and what it's actually doing are completely different. And that's a culture that we now need to confront versus, you know, things like tradition. And so, I mean, do we really expect this 55-year-old and this 35-year-old to sit at a table and see things eye to eye?
I think they should. I also think that there's a reason Maura rightfully puts it that culture should be changing. And it does. And some of the practices that were being practiced then were because of a certain environment, certain context. Right now, you look around and you realize there's one of the favorite lines I like in the script is that what does a 16-year-old know that a 19-year-old doesn't know, or a 25-year-old doesn't know, or in this case, even a 12-year-old doesn't know? Because some of the things were perceived to be taboo because we did not have access to certain information, and so some of these conversations we could not have with our parents back then. You had to be told, it had to be told in hush-hush tones. I'll give you an example. Sex was not talked about back in the day. It would only be told to a girl, for example, when she's about to get married, and she's told this is how you treat your husband, ABCD. Right now, a 10-year-old will go on the internet and tell you things, and you're like, oh dear Lord, you know. And it's not because they're trying to know, they already know, they've already read about it. And so the cultural practice of talking about sex much later becomes null and void to us now. It's not helpful right now. It means we have to think about how do we work around the information that the young people are having.
Sure.
So some of these taboos, as you say, culture is important to be practiced. It's important for us to practice it and try to preserve it. But unfortunately, the times you are set up in, the times our kids are growing up in, I say our kids as if I'm 90. the times that we are talking about right now, we have so much access to information that you cannot say that we'll preserve some of these practices for later. Okay. So unfortunately, most of this information is coming to the younger generation much faster and much younger.
Okay.
Again, you did a very good example of a cultural practice like FGM. Again, right now we are more knowledgeable. It would be nice if we held on to some of the cultural practices, but then what makes us choose to do away with FGM, for example, or enlighten people about its disadvantages as opposed to keeping it? Because the times you're leaving it, because you know better, because you've gone to school and realized it's doing more harm than good. So as much as we want to say, some cultural practices are to be held on to, no. And that's the beauty about the debate, because the debate actually talks about some of the taboos, and in different cultures and in different societies. And then we sit and say, so you grew up being told ABCD. Yeah, that's what you're practicing. Yeah. Okay, listen. So from this other side, from where I sit, I think ABCD, based on my cultural practice, based on my whatever information that has come to me so far, and based on a little research, just talking to people, you could be right, you could be wrong practicing it. We're not even saying we are prescribing an answer to some of these taboos that we're going to talk about. We're just saying, hiya, let's put it on the table. Okay. Let's hear your side of the story as well.
Which I also question, because to me, no information is neutral. I feel like it always has a purpose, right? So even to say that you're just presenting the debate and you're not presenting like where it should go, I also wonder, like, because you're not stating what the taboo subject is, because you don't want people to come with preconceptions, then you're not going to give them the solution. So I'm like,
the reason we don't give a solution is because art should not be giving you a solution. Art presents the different possibilities. Art gives you an opportunity to view things differently. Because sometimes, let's talk about, pick anything. If I'm seated here, if I'm looking this direction, all I can see is black and whatnot. But art gives me an opportunity to probably turn and see it from that gentleman's point of view, from your point of view, from everybody's point of view.
Let me pull you into the conversation with this as we get ready to wrap up. I think that part of the things then when we're addressing culture is, right now we speak of it with a very retrospective, agenda, like looking at what has happened before. And so my question then to you is, looking at the future then, are there things happening today that you yourself, when you're 55, when you're 65, when you're 95, how are you going to address those conversations moving forward? Because the truth is, we look at life and we judge it based on how it's affecting us today. But I'm sure even you guys know, there's things you were chapwad for when you were kids that now you're like, hey, thank the Lord, they spanked me for it.
Yeah.
So if we're to be very honest with ourselves, are there things in our culture today, as much as you're trying to address things from our parents' generation that have maybe influenced us today, are there other things that we are doing that you say, at some point we're going to have to pump the brakes on, because when we become kids, I mean, when we have children,
our own kids,
at 90 or whatever, as you were saying, how are you going to look at it then?
Yeah, I believe if you look at today's generation, today's way of living, there's almost an explosion of information. And so there's an information overload. from where we're coming from, we didn't have enough information.
Right.
Now where we are, we have
Too much.
too much information. So sometimes we may not, it seems as if we do not know exactly what to pick and what not to pick. So
Right.
I believe we are in a period where we are tunachuja vitu. You know, we are sieving things. Some of the things we are doing, we believe they are right. And the thing is, I believe when you're doing something and you believe it's right now, and then later on you come and, you know, you look back. And maybe if like pulling in the art angle, as artists we are provocateurs.
Okay.
Yeah? We put things on the table and push conversations forward.
All right.
And if truly we are the mirror of society, sometimes it's a concave mirror, sometimes it's a convex mirror.
All
you
right.
bend things a bit so that you can have people talk.
Okay.
And it is through that talk that you come to.
Well, then they should certainly come out to this debate. It's happening this weekend,
Yes.
Yes.
6th to 8th of March.
Yes,
At
that's Friday
Alliance
to
Francais.
Sunday. Yeah.
What time and what are the charges?
Friday is at 6 and 8 p.m. Saturday is 3, 6 and 8, and then on Sunday at 3 and 6.
Okay.
If you get your ticket before tomorrow, before the end of tomorrow, you'll get it at 1,000. Thereafter, it will be 1,200.
Where do they get the tickets?
You can buy them on M-Pesa. You don't have to physically come there. There's a
Okay.
till number,
Do you know it?
588-379.
All right.
It will go to Back to Basics. That's a company.
Got
so the
it.
name that appears when you send the money is Back to Basics.
All
The till
right.
number is 588-379.
Thank you both for coming onto the show.
Thank
Naharakishwa kweli.
Ni sawa, we even sisi tunataka kuona hawa tuko nao next. They are very
yeah.
good friends of ours.
Okay, good. Well, we want to make sure we give them at least a few good
yeah,
minutes
sure,
here.
sure.